everyone, I'm Joanna Penn from thecreativepenn.com, and today I'm here with Marianne Cantwell. Hi Marianne.
Hi everyone.
Hey! So Marianne is an author and a speaker and an entrepreneur making a living online with a free-range, location-independent life, which is very exciting. And her new book is Be a Free-Range Human. Escape the nine... There it is! Yay! Escape the 9 to 5, create a life you love and still pay the bills, which is very important. So that's fantastic, Marianne. So why don't you start by telling us a bit more about you and your writing background?
Well, my writing background is that ever since I was little, I think a lot of people listening will get, I was a voracious reader. So I'd always hide up with my Enid Blyton books, and I saw the world through the idea of a story. So I was always creating a story in my life of what was going on. And when it came time to go to university, I decided, well, I got good marks, so I could got into pretty much any course in Australia, because that's how it works. You get good marks to get into any course, and I chose to do something a bit different, which was to do writing. So I went and did an English degree, I did creative writing, and I had one of those really useful degrees that lets you flip burgers at the end of it. But, you know, I got to this stage where I was happy. I didn't want to write a book. I'd done this creative writing, I'd done English literature, I'd done all this stuff, and I thought, I really enjoyed that. I don't want to write a book. I want to go off and do other things. So I shelved it. So at that point, I don't think I wrote again properly for quite a few years. I got a proper job. I worked in media, not in the creative side. I worked in the city in management consultancy. And when it came time and I decided to work for myself and quit my job, that's actually when I started writing again. But in this time, I started a blog, Free Range Humans. And that's what led to the book. So it actually was this gap of years where I kept telling myself, I'm not a writer, I don't really want to write, I have no desire. And desire, oddly, came out of the work I was doing when I thought, oh, I should probably start a blog. And then I realized I really like writing again.
Oh no, that's fantastic. And I really like that story because, I mean, I often tell people, if you don't know what you want to do, start a blog.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's definitely a really good way to clarify your thoughts. And I started several blogs actually, and you know, I think I've started at least 6 of them, and only one of them stuck around. So, you know, blog death is part of the process.
Yeah, I think I've had 4 as well, so I'm the same as you. But let's, so on your latest blog post, which I just flipped over and had a look at, you actually say that your business is based on writing. So can you just expand on that a bit more? Because I know people are sitting there going, well, yeah, sure, I have a blog, but it's not a business. So what do you mean that your business is based on writing?
I think that's a good point. That post is why writing is not a waste of your time. And it's one of my favorite pieces because I think when we come from a conventional career background or even a conventional business background, we think that in order to do something for our business, we have to get paid directly for it. And what I always tell people is up until my book, and I hardly count my book royalties because they're book royalties, up until my book, I have never got paid for writing, yet writing is what my business was based on for the last several years. And what I mean by that is that after I started my Free Range Humans blog, that my whole business changed to be about free range humans. And I revamped everything I did so that up until the book came out, my blog was my main business website. And I don't mean that in a sort of a sexy, look at my shiny landing page with a blog behind it way. I mean, literally, it was my business website. It still is. You go to my Free Range Humans blog and that's what you get. And if you actually, it's a good example, if you go to the Free Range Humans blog now, you won't see any products up for sale. So you actually can't see how to work with me. The only way you find out is that you like my writing enough to sign up to my mailing list, at which point you'll get more writing in the form of my Friday love letters, which is where I do most of my work. I write them much more than I write on my blog. And all of my clients for the last several years, every single penny I've made has come from someone who liked my writing enough to find out more. So in that sense, the thing I do the most is write, and I do write for a living, even though people don't pay me to write.
No, I think that's brilliant. So we ought to explain what free range humans actually means. Like, what is that concept? And I guess who is the book aimed at, and a bit about what it is?
Good question. No, free range humans is a little concept I came up with when I was working in the city in London, and I was commuting on the tube, which is a painful experience, the best of times. But this wasn't the best of times because I was commuting on the Jubilee line to Canary Wharf, which is basically full of, you know, guys in suits who will actually kill their grandmother to get a seat and will step on you no matter what. So I was in this like pen, if you'll, you know, call it that, of people, you know, all ready to go to work but like jammed in. And I was just thinking one day, I'm like, can't breathe, this is ridiculous. I'm like, if we were animals, this wouldn't be legal. We'd be like, animal rights campaigners would be like, free those humans. And what it made me realize, I thought, well, I want to be a free-range human. And that thought stuck with me. So after I quit my job, people start asking me, how did you quit your job? I started the free-range blog down the line, and the natural name for that was Free-Range Humans. And what I do now is I help people figure out what they want to do and how to make money from it without having to go to an office, without having a boss, and having the option of living where they want to in the world. So be it, you know, live where you live now, work out of your cafe down the road or your living room, or do what I do, which is spend 6 months of the year in London, 6 months of the year traveling the world with my whole laptop and, you know, working from Thailand or whatever. It gives you options. So that's what free ranging is about. It's not about travel, which some people assume when you think free ranging. It's about the option to create the freedom in your life.
And our stories are so similar because I back in the 90s when I was working in London as well, and I had the same feelings in the tube, and I used to have panic attacks on the tube, and it was so awful. And you know, so it's very similar type of story. And now, you know, I'm not traveling every 6 months, which I should do. But no, I loved your book and it's brilliant, and I really urge people to have a look at it. But can we talk about how you got a book deal then, and what, because it's a traditional book deal, right? A traditional publisher. Yeah, so how did your book come from the blog? How did that happen? Because I know a lot of people are interested in that type of thing.
This is a really funny question when I get asked this, because the first thing I say is I didn't really want a book deal, which is probably the best way to get one. Hint.
Yeah.
What happened was a few years back when my blog started getting, you know, just not gaining huge popularity, but just getting noticed. I was talking to lots of other people who happened to have book deals, and, you know, things get passed around. And I was talking to another publisher, a major publisher in the UK, about book deal. And the result of those conversations is that I don't think I wanted to work with them. I don't think they really wanted to work with me, because I didn't think that they were going to let me write the book I wanted to write. They were very keen to work with me as an author, but only if I do things that essentially I didn't want to do. So I pulled away, and I had a really negative experience, which I think is important to say, because not your first experience isn't always great. And to the point where I was like, you know, I don't want anything to do with writing a book anymore. I prefer my little blog, and I'm very happy, thank you very much. So after that, where I thought, well, you know, having a book deal is like having a job. Someone tells you what to do. A few years down, a year and a half later, I got approached again via my blog by a publisher who I would probably have said no to, except via my little stalk system, where I can see when someone signed up to my email list. I noticed that the person who contacted me had been reading my emails for the last 2 months. And I thought, okay, this isn't random. She actually knows what I talk about. So I met up with her, and we really clicked. And she was like, you know, we would love you as an author. Let's work out what sort of book you want to write. And I decided to go with them, and it was the right choice to make. And I signed a traditional book deal, and things went from there. And it was very, I always tell people, if you are really, some people see the value of a book deal for the sake of a book deal. I know people who've had great experiences that way. Because I am someone who writes, you know, I write like several thousand words every week that goes out. I'm already a writer. I'm like, what do I need the book deal for? It's an expansion of my platform, and I didn't want my platform expanded. I didn't want the message out there unless it was the message that deserved to be out there. So that's why, to me, it was better to prove my stripes by blogging, by writing my Friday emails every week, and essentially let the people who would value that select me. Because in the end, you know, as you'll know, Joanna, your commitment to your book when you go through a mainstream publisher is not just the writing process. You then have 9 months in which you go from handing in the manuscript to the date it hits the shelves, and then you have the timeline of marketing it. So you're looking at a 3-year commitment. So you want to make sure it's a 3-year commitment. Like, think about it. in terms of blog. If anyone's watching this and getting a bit stressed out about committing to a blog now, don't go around thinking you need a book deal until you know that you're happy to write that and be with that topic for a 3-year period. Otherwise, you're going to end up unhappy and not finishing it. But I'm very glad I did it now.
Yeah, so
journey.
Right, so it has been another positive experience.
Surprisingly, it was. I mean, the honest sort of reality of the book thing is that it was up and down during the. The writing process was interesting. The deciding on the cover and title I found very difficult as someone who's controlled my brand. I didn't agree on the title. I still don't like my subtitle, and I don't particularly love my cover. And what I'd say is, I'm still glad that I have the book out there, because then that was like, it took months of struggle to get to the point where I can say that. It's not exactly what I would have put out there, but the message it's sharing and the impact it's making is something I feel I couldn't, and now I realize I couldn't have done that if I just kept on blogging. And I used to think I could have, and now I realize that's no longer the case. So I'm actually grateful to my publisher, even though I disagree violently with them on certain points. But on balance, it's definitely a positive thing. I think most people who write a book of this type related to the work they do in the world, even if they have the worst possible experience, which I did not have. I think my publisher's amazing now. They still say it was worth it. So there's something in there.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's fantastic. And one of the other things that people wonder, or they assume, is that if you get a book deal, the publisher's going to do all the marketing. So obviously, and I would assume that you were partly approached because you already had an audience. So how's that marketing split done?
That's a really good point. Now, my background before I got into the work I do, when I worked in media, I was on the side of things about marketing and strategy. So the advantage that I had was as soon as I sat down with my editor, like for the first coffee meeting ever before to decide whether I want to do this, I was immediately I didn't come into this as an author. Because having worked in media, I know that there's a big difference between the talent and the serious people, this is what the media world, how they will treat you. So I put on my marketing head on, and I walked in there as if I was talking about any business discussion. So at times when I thought, no, I don't like where this is going, I put my author hat on and say, no, I think that blah, blah, blah. But what I found really useful was that drawing on what I knew they would value, I was able to actually get better outcomes for my book than if I acted like a traditional author, which is all about, oh, I need my creative license. I'm like, yes, you do, but the way to get that creative license is to prove that you are what they value, and that is an effective platform to sell the book. Now, sell the book doesn't mean go out there and hawk it. That's part of it, but it's not the big thing. The big part of selling the book is knowing what to write for an audience that really wants it. And frankly, if you're a blogger, that's what you've been doing anyway. Now you're doing is translating what you've done naturally or almost by mistake or by trial and error into language the publisher is going to understand. So you'll do things like publishers love comparisons. So even though it's cliched and really irritating, especially when you think, oh my God, my thing's so unique, which I kind of thought, it's great to say, you know what it is? This book is a cross between, and name like 3 other titles. They love that. And it really helps because what you're doing is you're empowering the person you're talking to go away and talk to the team that's going to make the decision about your book. So you tell them where they're going to see it on the shelves, how it's going, who's going to buy it, why that's exciting. And by shaping that process, you actually get more freedom because that means you got to sort of shape where the content went. But anyway, that's a different thing. You actually asked about marketing. The marketing aspect of it, I mean, I was under no illusions that I was approached. No, they said it very clearly because I had a great platform. Yeah. And the questions you'll be asked are things like, what's your reach? How many people can you reach? And that can be a bit scary if you don't think you have a big mailing list, but actually your network's probably bigger than you think. So I was like, okay, so my mailing list is this big, my Twitter following is this big, I've got a loyal Facebook page of this big. I also have contacts with people who have promoted my work or are willing to, and here are the numbers of their followings. So you add those in. That's something that someone told me who got a book deal a few years back. It was the best piece of advice I got. So suddenly you can put your headline is, I have access to 20,000 people, when you have a mailing list of under 1,000. Might be bigger than that, but you can do that. And you then like break it down. You're like, this is me, this is them, this is how it looks. Really good tip. The second thing they'll look at is media profile. So I'd been approached by different people. I'd been on BBC TV once, but they didn't care so much about the contacts. What they cared about was that I was what they called promotable. And that means if someone calls up, says, we want an interview with Marianne, it wouldn't, I would be able to go in and do that. If you don't have that profile, I'd urge you to start working with, try to get on local radio. If you hate talking, like in public, don't worry about it. Look at what you can do in terms of writing. So most of my media was actually being interviewed. Even a line in a magazine is brilliant. So that helped. You don't have to do the talking in public thing. If they've met you and they think you wouldn't shy away from a journalist, that counts in your favor. It's the meeting that really, actually a sideline of that is I know someone lost a book deal that they would have got with Hay House, I believe it was, because when they were asked, they went and met them, would you be up for doing a talk to the X many people? They were like, oh, I don't think I want to do that. And Hay House, if you know them, is a publisher that is predicated on their authors doing talks. Not all publishing houses do that, but so you need to know the mechanism the publisher you're going to go for uses. That person then got a book deal with another publisher, so it worked out. But you should be aware of those things.
No, that's some great advice in there. I like the using other people's kind of platform. But you've mentioned several times like connections that you've made, and I always say as well, like part of having a blog is about meeting other bloggers, right, and building those networks. So how have you done that over time? Like, what's your best tip for connecting with peers?
That's a good point. See, it's really weird. I was talking to my partner about this, and I was like, I'm really not very good at connecting with people. And he was like, yes, you are. I don't see myself as a natural networker at all. I actually have to, the example I give is it's natural for me to go on a video and talk, to go on stage and talk, or to write. They're my natural things. I'm happy doing those. In order to connect with people, I have to remember to put in my diary. So I'll be like, okay, this week I'm going to remember to email humans that I don't know. So it's actually, I want to say that because it's out of my comfort zone. But once I've done it, I've loved it. And I think that's the same of a lot of natural writers. We live in our head.
I'm there too, yeah.
It's weird, isn't it? It's like we live in it, even though I'm an extrovert, I still live in my head. I'm happy to sort of stare at a wall and just think about things for ages. So, yes, it's not natural, but yes, you can do it. And the way I did it, I don't have the world's, unless I do have a big network, but I don't have the world's biggest network. It was over time. I go through these spurts of wanting to connect with people. So this week I had a spurt, so I ended up having 3 conversations with people who I've been sort of looking at for a few years, and I was like, I should probably talk to them at some point. And I kind of just emailed them and was like, hi, do you want to have a conversation? It worked. Now, I'll admit, with a book, it's dead easy now. I'm just like capitalizing the hell out of this thing, but especially if you've always had a holdback. Before then, when I was totally unknown, I would build up relationships over social media because I felt a bit more comfortable because that was writing and I was okay with that. So a few people I met I followed them on Twitter for a while. I've been interacting with them. And then I say, hey, would you like to meet up for a coffee? Don't bite. And generally I met up. So the person who we think my publisher heard about me from, she can't quite remember either, was actually someone I met on Twitter. It was really lovely. And I said, hey, can I interview you for my blog? And he was a video interview. And he interviewed me back on the day. He was like, I'll just interview you while we're here. And she saw that like a year and a bit after he posted it. Like it was, I didn't even think about it.
Yeah.
So I would just say, yeah, reach out as in the way you're most comfortable. But the thing, if you're uncomfortable about this stuff, which, I often am until now, I'd say make sure you're doing it with really good intentions in mind. So the thing I love is saying, would you like to be interviewed for? So I'm currently running the Free Range Festival, which Joanna is a guest at, and it's an event where I end up having 10 or so main stage speakers and an online event. And I really liked that because it enabled me to reach out to a few people who were a bit beyond my comfort zone. And I was like, oh, now we're having really good conversation. So what can you do to make it take the emphasis away from you? So it's not like I want to meet up with you. It's like I want to meet up with you and interview you for my blog. So that's what a blogger can do. Or the other one is, I think, we've had a great chat online. Would you like to meet for coffee? That is something else I've done and feel really comfortable with.
No, you're right. No, that's exactly right. And it's what it's what we're doing now, this interview. And I've had a podcast since I had pretty much nobody on my blog. I've had a podcast for 3.5 years now. So it's a great way to, to get people to talk and to have like half an hour of conversation, right? It's brilliant.
Yes, just another tip around this that you got me thinking. Really, like the ways I form my best connections have been through doing stuff with other people, like actual partnerships on different projects. And often that got me, the intention was never to get me extra exposure. It was more I thought there'll be fun projects. My rule for everything is it fun. But every partnership I've had has been where I've met up with someone and identified something about identified an uncomfortableness in them or a problem that they have that maybe they haven't quite talked about. And I mean, like, what's going on with that? And often, if I realize I can help, that's where a good project partnership is born. So if you are talking to someone and you feel, oh, maybe they're not quite making enough money in that area, or maybe they say, oh, I'd like to run this, but I hate doing X. And you're like, I like doing that. Don't be afraid of actually going in and saying, hey, look, here's a plan. Let's try this. They could say no, and that's fine. But if you're really listening, in most cases, they'll say yes. And a partnership like that a couple of times can get you more contacts and more interestingness than trying to do stuff by yourself all the time, unless you really want to do it that way.
No, fantastic. Now, your book has gone, it was number 1 in the Amazon entrepreneur charts and a number of other business charts, right? Doing really, really well. So you've got your email list, which you've mentioned, and you've obviously been building your list for a number of years now. But what else have you done around that launch period to kind of shoot you up that fast?
That's a really cool question. I was so geeked out on this whole thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do like the best launch in the world. And there's been 2 really interesting outcomes. Outcome 1 was I did the best launch in the world. I did a big launch, pre-launch, before it hit the shelves, before it was released on January 3, 2013. And I did a pre-launch in mid-December. And I did it as a Christmas launch, so you could buy a book for a friend, pre-order it, and it would hit their doorstep before, they went back to work. So it was kind of a nice timing. And I did I spent my December on like first 3 weeks, like really solidly on getting the hype up on my email list, getting other people to send people to me. And then I was like, right, guys, I want us to, so if we all buy at the same time, you get these bonuses, and I want us to spike this title to the top of the charts so that people will actually notice it, which was a big part of it. So that succeeded. And so it got it to the top of, I can't remember where it went on Amazon. It was really popular. It was Amazon's best-selling new book title on Amazon.co.uk for like over a week in December, which is pretty awesome. And that was great. However, obviously, it's a pre-launched book, so straight after that, a week or 2 after that, as Christmas started hitting, it started going down again because you actually couldn't buy it. You could just say, I want this when it arrives. So I was like, oh, okay, so that was a launch. This is the bit that surprised me. When the 3rd of January hit, people started getting their books through, it started climbing, up and up. And I had no press at this point because my publisher decided, I disagreed, and now I agree, which is a new theme of me and my publisher, that January wasn't the time where they wanted to put press work into a book. They said it's just dead time for the book. And I was like, I disagree. But now I was like, you're right.
New career change.
Yeah, that's what I said, but they were right. And they're like, we're not doing press then, we're doing press in February. So I had all of January with no press to really, which I think is awesome from a analytical perspective, because you can actually look at what was generated organically. And the book kept climbing. So obviously I was emailing my list, but not like with these all-out emails. It was more like there was one email saying, hey, the book's out. It's so amazing. It was like part of the journey. And then a few PSs. So it was not a big push at this point. Already had gone down. But it went up of its own accord. Now, here are the ways that I think it happened. One is because so many people had pre-bought the book, they were, and this is where I think the content of your book and the packaging, but the content and the packaging rather than your marketing is going to be crucial. People have been giving it to friends and promoting it themselves without me asking them, which actually was a lot more than I expected. So that's been going on. It's been kept in the top 3 or so in entrepreneurship consistently. It hasn't dropped below top 4,000 on Amazon since launch, like since day one, which is unusual in its field. So something happened. I think, I'd say it was that so many people pre-bought, which was really unusual. Amazon ran out on day one of the stock. It took another 24 hours. They're like, we're a little bit lost. We had to get some more. Number 2 was because I'd done a huge lineup of people promoting the book. So I'd been got other bloggers in place to write about the book, to have a copy. I'd given the extract of different chapters. I'd hand-picked people I really wanted to help promote it. Everyone I knew personally. I made sure I knew them first. I emailed them the chapters I thought they'd like. And people said, you know what, I want to promote this. I want to write about it. So I got a lot of blog posts. And because I'd given them a lot of time from December, people still who were running late were publishing them in January. So suddenly I'd see a spike, and I'd be like, what happened? I'd be like, oh, that blog post got published. And it just kept going and going. And to the point that by the time February hit and the press started hitting, which again was like way more than I thought. Like we were in Business Week. It was the book of the week in Business Week, which was like, what the hell? I was like, hi. CBS Money Watch. It's coming, a 2-page spread's coming out in April in a major Sunday magazine.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's got photos of me apparently, which is a bit weird, but there you go. Lots of really cool shit like that's happening. But yeah, it was what I'd really stress, and this is like if I took a lesson out of this, would be I'm very glad I did the pre-launch. I think that was essential for awareness raising. But I also think pre-launches are overhyped because the game that people play, and I was playing it on the pre-launch, is it's kind of a game of lack. It's the game that if I don't get this into top slot in this launch period, it will never hit top slot. That absolutely, that might be true, and if that's true, your book has a problem. That's the reality of it. Like I'll admit, I think it went higher in there than it ever has. Like it was number 1, but it was like you can see how many. I think it was in the thousands at that point, as opposed to like 2,000. So it sold somewhat more in that week. But the reason I would do a launch like that is awareness raising, because your most loyal blog readers will be the ones who will sell your book for you. So give them the chance to be excited about it before it arrives, and to be the first to read it, and to leave those reviews on Amazon, which have been generating its own reviews, by the way, just kind of awesome. That's the reason. That's the lesson I take from it. It's not about the pre-launch. It's actually about the whole process of it, and the pre-launch is part of that. And the other part of it is don't let your book go. It's like your baby. So the day it was born, on the 3rd of January, his little birthday, it came out all blue and beautiful. And I haven't let it go in that sense. Like I'm always watching how it's doing. Like every day I'm sort of really aware of it, no matter what else I'm doing. I'm like, where is it now? How's it doing? Does it need a tweak? Does it need a bit of love in my newsletter? Should I be talking to someone who maybe can put it in a blog post? So even though I might not take action on it all the time, there'll be a whole week that goes by without any promotion from me at all. I'm always aware of it. I know where it is. So don't assume your book will sell itself. Give it some loving as well.
Yeah, wow, so much. And I think, the overall key there is that you're clearly a businesswoman and you've done a lot of work. Like presumably your publisher got you like the Business Week thing, or did you get that?
Good question. I have a little chart somewhere of what my publisher got me and what I got myself, because this is why I love my publisher, by the way, and they'll be amazed if they ever watch this to hear me say this. But at first I was like, I will have to do all my marketing. Every author tells you that. And I think if you go in with that attitude, everything they do is a happy bonus for you. So, I organised my own book launch. I paid for my own book launch party, which I call a book launch party as opposed to a book launch, because a book launch is not what gets you sales. It's a party, right?
Yeah.
So in terms of press, the very first 2 pieces of press I got for myself. I got one by, I don't know, I think someone contacted me. Through someone existing contact. And the second one, I stalk sites like Harrow, Source Bottle, journalist request websites. I'm on email lists, and I responded. I did, the classic. I responded fast. I responded short. I responded with a clear angle for a journalist request, which anyone can get. They're free. And as soon as you can say, and I'm the author of this book published this month, I can just tell you now, personal experience, your reply rate goes nuts. I got everyone except for one of the journalist requests I put in, I responded to. It got me into Zest, into Psychologies, into several trade mags. So I generated those myself. The big names, though, I'll admit my publisher got them, and I was like, really? Whoa. Like the Sunday Mag, they got me. Well, they hired a book PR company for me, which meant they trusted. Well, actually, to be fair, they hired it because the book sold so well on pre-launch. So that's another thing to consider. They were like, this book title is obviously pretty hot. So they hired me a PR company, which I did not expect. I did not bank on that. And not to labour the point. But
most people won't get that.
Yeah, exactly. The fact I didn't bank on that was why I did all the work that got me that. So don't bank on your publisher giving you a thing. I'm literally, in my field, the only person I know who got that. Like, got a PR company, and people get plenty of press, so don't assume you need one. But it got me press faster. So the Business Week, they got that. CBS came off Business Week, so it's a mixture. So don't feel like you need a publisher to do things for you, but be pleasantly surprised when they do. Choose your publisher wisely. I chose a specialist business, I think it's there. They're the biggest independent business publisher in the UK, and I think that was the right choice because a big business house wouldn't be doing this for me. So
you can mention their name if you like.
Hogan Page.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't be known outside the UK, but in the UK they're absolutely awesome. I really like what they're doing right now.
That's fantastic, and I think overall your message is about partnership with your audience, with your publisher. I think all of that comes through in your work. So, last question: what's happening for you next? I mean, the book's been out a few months. You're writing another one. What are you doing? Where are you going next?
I'm not writing another book. Are you kidding me? No, my publisher knows this. I'm like, no. That's not how it works. Not for me. I don't want to write another book. This might change in 5 years' time. Right now, I'm like, this was my baby. I got my words out that I wanted to get out. Now I want to be free to play and innovate in my own way. The Free Range Festival, which I will be finished by the time people watch this, is something I'm really passionate about. So I'm really into creating engaging, sparky events at the moment, like online events. And I actually don't know where it's going to go, but I do know it's going to be lots of fun.
Oh, brilliant. So where can people find you and your book?
Well, they can find me at the Free Range Humans blog, which is free-range-humans.com, or just Google Free Range Humans blog. Or you can get my little baby. She's lovely. And my little child you can check it out. Actually, I've got the book trailer. Oh my God, we didn't even talk about the book trailer. I filmed that on a cliff near LA and in New York, but that sounds glamorous, but it's actually because I was flying through, because as you do when you're free ranging. Anyway, go check out the book trailer. I think you guys will like it. It's at bafreerangehuman.com. And it got profiled in a few book trade publications as being really weird. Apparently good, but weird. So check it out, and you can link to the book from there, which is all over Amazon. You get in the US on Amazon, in the UK, pretty much anywhere. But yeah, befreerangehuman.com. Laugh at my book trailer, read the Free Range Humans blog. And have fun with it. Whatever your project, have fun.
It's great. So thanks ever so much for your time, Marianne.
Thank you. Thank you very much.